My name's Marcus, I'm 33, single, and, apparently, the family wallet. Or at least that's what they've tried to turn me into. Growing up, I was always the quiet one. Not the golden child like my older sister Janine, and definitely not the chaotic baby like my younger brother Kyle. I was just there, reliable, invisible until someone needed a ride, a favor, or, nowadays, a payment. I never minded being low-key. I liked solving things on my own, building my life quietly, without expecting applause. But lately, it felt like the more I succeeded, the more entitled my family got. And it all came to a head on Janine's birthday. Now Janine is 35, married with 3 kids, and somehow still acts like a teenager who expects the world to revolve around her. Every year, her birthday gets more extravagant. Last year, it was a catered backyard party with a hired violinist. The year before that, a weekend Airbnb in the mountains that I accidentally got charged for. I should have seen the pattern. But this year, it was dinner at this absurdly overpriced seafood and steak place downtown. A place where the menu doesn't even list prices, just poetic descriptions like prime-aged tenderness kissed with truffle foam. Yeah, that kind of place. Janine texted me the invite 2 weeks before, all casual. Dinner at Veludo's for my birthday. Can't wait to see you, sparkling heart. No mention of who was paying. That was the first red flag. Still, I told myself, be a good brother. Show up. Keep it light. And I did. I even wore the blazer my ex gave me for job interviews. There were 12 of us total. Janine, her husband, their kids, my parents, Kyle and his girlfriend, an aunt and uncle, and me. As soon as I walked in, it felt off. Janine squealed like I'd just flown in from Paris, hugged me way too long, and said, "You finally made it." Like I was late. I was 10 minutes early. We were seated at a long table, and from the start, the menu was chaos. The kids ordered filet mignon, each, and nobody batted an eye. Janine got the lobster and scallops. Her husband ordered surf and turf with extra sides. Even my dad asked for a bottle of some wine I didn't recognize, but knew had a 3-digit price tag just by how the waiter's eyebrows rose when he said it. I ordered grilled chicken and water. I remember my sister smirking. Still counting calories, Marcus? I smiled politely and said nothing, already checking my phone under the table to see how much the ATM let me withdraw per day. Dinner was long. Laughter, old stories, lots of toasts to family, and to Janine's big day. My mom made a big show of gifting Janine a silver necklace, then whispering to me, "You'll give yours after the cake, right?" I blinked. "Gift?" I whispered back. She blinked back, confused. "The money. You always do." That was the second red flag, and at that point, I was staring straight into the fire. Then came dessert. 3 of them, all shared, plus 2 more bottles of wine. Then coffee. My dad leaned back in his chair, hands on his full belly, and looked around with a satisfied sigh. And that's when the bill came. The waiter placed the leather folder down gently, like it was holding sacred scripture. My dad barely glanced at it before sliding it straight in front of me. I waited for someone to say something. Janine just kept chatting with her husband about some new stroller she wanted. My mom sipped her coffee like nothing was wrong. Kyle was on his phone. "Marcus," my dad said, with that amused dad tone he always used when he knew he was asking too much, but figured he'd get away with it. "You don't have kids. It's the least you can do." I swear, for a full 5 seconds, I thought he was joking. I looked up and down the table, expecting someone, anyone, to laugh or say, "Come on, Dad, that's not fair." But nothing. Just silence and sips. Janine was fixing her lipstick in her phone camera. My mom was already pulling on her shawl, like the evening was done and I was supposed to settle the final page like a closing act. I flipped the folder open. $1,840. I don't know what it was exactly that snapped in me. Maybe it was the years of being the responsible one. "You're so lucky you don't have to deal with daycare or dance recitals" comments. Maybe it was the time I lent Kyle $2,000 for a used car he totaled in 3 weeks and never paid back. Or when my parents borrowed money for a leaky roof that miraculously never got fixed. Or when Janine called me just a guy who codes all day during Thanksgiving dinner in front of 20 people. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a 20, crisp, from the ATM earlier that day. "Then you can split what's left," I said, placing it on top of the bill. I stood, smoothed my blazer, and walked out without looking back. It was like time paused behind me. I heard a sharp inhale, probably my mom. Maybe someone called my name, but I didn't turn. The air outside was cold and sharp, the way city air gets at night when the heat of the day vanishes all at once. I took a deep breath and started walking. I didn't even take my car. Just walked 2 blocks to a bar I liked, ordered a beer, and turned my phone off. The next morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls, 20 from my mom alone. My voicemail was full. Family group chat was exploding, dozens of texts with everything from seriously to grow up, Marcus. My favorite was from Kyle. You embarrassed everyone last night. Mom was crying. I listened to the voicemail from my mom last. Her voice was sharp, controlled in that way where you could tell she was furious but didn't want it to sound like yelling. Marcus, I don't know what that was last night, but you've embarrassed us all. That was your sister's special night. She was humiliated. You made a scene. Call me back immediately. I didn't call. I didn't explain. I didn't even get mad. I just texted one word back. Good. And then I sat back, poured myself a coffee, and started thinking. Not about apologies. Not about regrets. About the next move. Because I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The silence that followed my one-word reply was almost disappointing. For a whole hour after I sent that text, good, I braced for impact. I thought there'd be another barrage. Maybe even a knock on my door. But the notifications stopped. The group chat fell dead quiet. No calls. No follow-ups. That's when I knew they weren't cooling off. They were regrouping. See, my family isn't the kind that yells right away. They wound you with guilt. Long, strategic silences. Then they come back with emotional haymakers. We raised you. We always supported you. This family has sacrificed so much for you. But they never talk about what I sacrificed. How I paid my own tuition by working night shifts at a warehouse. How I helped mom when she had her second surgery because Janine was too stressed with the kids. How I let them use my credit card to hold the deposit for Kyle's apartment, just for a few days, that turned into 6 months of collection notices. And how I never once threw it back in their faces. Until now. 2 days later, a letter arrived. A literal envelope. Mailed. That was mom's next move, bringing out the old-school emotional warfare. The handwriting on the front was hers. Neat and overly formal, like she was writing to a judge. I opened it, already rolling my eyes. Inside was a typed letter. 2 pages, single-spaced, signed at the bottom in pen like it was a ceasefire agreement. It started with, "Dear Marcus, we are deeply hurt." Not angry. Not disappointed. Hurt. That was how they always framed it. Like I wasn't allowed to have boundaries because they were the ones feeling pain. It went on to say how unfortunate my outburst was, how humiliated Janine felt in front of the family, how the evening had been utterly ruined by my uncharacteristic behavior. Then came the part that really got me. We've always appreciated how generous you've been. That's why we assumed, in good faith, that covering the dinner wouldn't be an issue. Your father said it jokingly. You took it personally. Right. Because casually dropping a nearly $2,000 bill on me was all a joke. But the kicker? The last paragraph. Your absence at Sunday's family brunch would only widen the rift. We hope you'll do the mature thing and join us at 11 a.m. Janine has already forgiven you. Forgiven me. Like I was the one who needed forgiveness. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Something about it. How smug, how twisted it was, flipped a switch in me. For years, I'd swallowed this garbage with a smile. I let them pretend they were just teasing when they belittled me. Let them rewrite history every time I stepped in to clean up their mess, and they called it helping out. So no, I wasn't going to brunch. But I wasn't just going to stay silent, either. That night, I went into my online banking. I've been doing pretty well, software consulting, remote contracts, some crypto at the right time. I never brag about it. My family doesn't know how much I really have. Because if they did, the requests would never stop. Even without knowing the full picture, they'd already turned me into the family ATM. But now I started doing the math on just how much I'd already funded. I pulled up old Venmo receipts, PayPal logs, even text messages for IOUs they never honored. I added it all up. $6,830 for Kyle's car, insurance, and rent shortfalls. For $1,200 in temporary loans to my parents over the years. $1,000 for Janine's baby shower. $3,000 toward Dad's emergency dental work, which, spoiler alert, turned into a trip to Cancun with Mom. And countless dinners, events, Uber rides, and gifts from all of us that I alone paid for. I printed every transaction. I annotated them with notes. I turned the whole thing into a neatly stapled packet labeled receipts, since you forgot. Then I did something I'd never done before. I sent it to the entire family group chat. No caption, no long message, just one photo of the cover page and the words, "This is what I've already done. Consider it my final contribution." Cue the explosion. It started with Kyle, who sent "What is this?" followed by 10 angry face emojis. Then Janine, who said, "Wow, petty much." My mom followed with a string of increasingly guilt-laced messages. "You're weaponizing your kindness. That's not who you are, Marcus." I sat back, sipping coffee, watching it all unravel. Then came the call from my dad. I didn't answer. The voicemail started calm. "Marcus, son, we need to talk," and quickly dissolved into, "You think money makes you better than us? You wouldn't have anything without this family." Right. The family that never once showed up when I defended my thesis. The family that didn't even send a card when I bought my first home. The family that couldn't be bothered to learn what I actually do for work, but always knew how to ask me for money. That weekend, I got 6 calls from my aunt, one from my grandmother, even a text from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. "You good, bro?" By the time Sunday brunch rolled around, I was blocking numbers left and right. I spent the morning in sweatpants, watching a documentary and ordering pancakes just for myself. No forced smiles, no polite conversations, no pretending to laugh at Dad's recycled jokes or letting Janine insult me with a smile. But I wasn't done. Because the final card they didn't know I held, I was still paying for something big. Something they'd never connected to me because I kept it separate under a different account name. I paid the tuition for Kyle's last semester of college. The school had my information on file as the emergency contact, the financial backer. Why? Because our parents couldn't co-sign, and Kyle begged me for one last chance to get his life on track. He had no idea that his payment deadline was Monday, or that I still had time to pull the plug, and I was seriously considering it. Monday morning came like any other, except this time I wasn't sleepwalking through it. I woke up before my alarm, something I hadn't done in months. No dread, no tight chest, just clarity. My apartment was still dark except for the faint blue from the hallway lights spilling in, and for the first time in a long time, I felt still, peaceful even. I made myself coffee, not instant, the good kind, the kind I save for weekends or special occasions. Because today was one. Today was the first day I'd act like I mattered, like I was done being the safety net for people who never once asked how I was doing. The tuition portal for Kyle's university was open. I logged in with the account I set up for him 2 years ago when I agreed to just co-sign, and somehow became the sole payer. Tuition was due by 11:59 p.m. A lovely red banner at the top of the page flashed. Pending payment. $8,920, fall semester. I hovered my mouse over the Pay Now button, then moved to Remove Authorized Payment Method. Click. Confirmed. There. Just like that, I was out. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't even feel angry. I felt awake. Present. Like I was finally stepping out from a shadow I hadn't realized I'd been living in for over a decade. At exactly 9:14 a.m., my phone rang. It was Kyle. I let it ring. Then again at 9:16. Then 9:19. By 9:25, I had 8 missed calls and a text that simply said, "Bro, please tell me you didn't cancel the tuition thing." I didn't answer. I watched the little dots appear, then disappear, then reappear. I just got off the phone with financial aid. They said the payment method is gone. WTF. Still didn't answer. I walked to my kitchen, poured more coffee, added cinnamon, something Janine once mocked me for, calling it bougie, and sat by the window. Outside, the city was moving on, cars honking, people rushing. But I wasn't rushing anymore. I was watching it like a man who finally realized he didn't have to fix everything for everyone else to keep breathing. At 9:41, I got another text. This one was longer. "Look, I know I've been a fool sometimes, okay? But you can't just drop this on me the day it's due. I'll get kicked out. You promised you'd help. Don't mess me over like this." Ah, that tone. The "you owe me" tone. The same one he used when I refused to lend him money for a new gaming rig last Christmas, and he called me a buzzkill. The same tone Janine used when I said I wouldn't babysit her kids last minute because I had an interview. I didn't reply, but I screenshotted the texts. I had a feeling I might need to remind myself later of how quickly the people who need you turn bitter when you stop feeding the cycle. By noon, my mom called again. Voicemail. "Marcus, You need to fix this. Your brother is panicking. I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but this isn't the time to prove a point. We are family, and family doesn't give up on each other. No mention of the birthday dinner. No mention of the $15,000 I'd covered across 3 years. Just a demand disguised as a plea. But the real blow came at 3:37 p.m. Janine. She hadn't texted me since the group chat explosion. Hadn't reached out personally. But now she sent a message that made my blood pressure spike and my jaw clench so hard I thought I might crack a molar. This is getting out of hand. Just pay the tuition and stop being dramatic. You're not the victim here. You chose to make yourself the bank. Don't act shocked now that people expect you to act like one. That was it. No hello. No apology. Just that. I stared at the message for a long time, rereading it like a bad novel where the villain doesn't even bother to hide behind a smile anymore. And for once, I let the anger come. Not to explode. Not to scream or argue, but to fuel something deeper. I opened my laptop again. Went to Google Drive. I had something else I'd been working on. A letter. One I started drafting a year ago when the resentment first began quietly bubbling. Back then, I never intended to send it. It was just journaling. Therapy. But now it was a manifesto. I polished it. Added a preface explaining the full breakdown of everything I'd paid for, supported, co-signed, or contributed to over the last decade. I included screenshots, receipts, emails. I titled it, Why I'm Done. And then I shared it. Not just in the family group chat, but with every single person who had ever taken part in my financial erosion. The aunt who asked for a quick $500 to cover rent. The cousin who always needed help with just gas money. The uncle who guilted me into investing in a bar he never opened. I sent it to all of them. Within minutes, the calls started again. But I didn't answer. I was already packing. Not because I was running away, but because I had booked a beach trip a week ago. A real one. Solo. 5 days, no laptop, no work, no family. Just ocean, books, and silence. And this time, I was going. I landed in Tulum just before sunset. The kind of sky that looks fake until you're standing under it. Streaks of pink and orange slicing through clouds like an oil painting left out in the rain. I rolled my carry-on behind me through a quiet little resort with wooden cabanas and no kids in sight. Just quiet. Just peace. Exactly what I needed. When I got to my room, I turned off my phone and left it in the drawer beside the bed. I wasn't ready for more voicemails, more manipulation. I'd spent so many years in fix-it mode, pouring energy, time, money into a family that saw me as useful but never seen. It was time to unplug, not to punish them, but to finally reconnect with myself. For the next 3 days, I did nothing but swim, sleep, read, and eat fish caught that morning. No emails, no messages. I watched the sun rise from a hammock, wrote a few thoughts in a notebook, took a yoga class with some strangers from Sweden, and forgot what time it was. But eventually, reality calls. I turned my phone back on the night before my flight home. It nearly buzzed itself off the nightstand. Dozens of messages, missed calls, voicemails that cut off because the inbox was full, screenshots in the group chat, angry ones, some desperate, some pathetic even. I scrolled through them slowly, letting the venom roll off me like sunscreen in the heat. My dad's messages were almost predictable. You need to come talk to us like a man. You're acting like a child. No one asked you to pay for everything. Except they did. Repeatedly. Mom went from guilt-laced pleadings to sharp-edged blame. We don't know what's gotten into you. This isn't how we raised you. You're breaking your grandmother's heart. If your grandfather could see this. And Janine? She stayed true to form. You're being so extra about this. It was a dinner, Marcus. Grow up. You clearly need therapy. I told the kids you're just going through something. They said they hope you feel better. I laughed at that one. The same kids who I bought Christmas presents for every year while their parents bought themselves matching Apple Watches. Then came Kyle's texts. You messed me over, man. I had to go beg Dad for help. They won't pay it. Now I'm locked out of the portal. Thanks. You're just jealous I have something going for me. That last one made me snort out loud. Jealous? Of Kyle? The guy who'd bounced between 3 majors, 2 part-time jobs, and somehow managed to have a new excuse every semester for why he was almost done. The same brother who once asked if software engineers just fix printers and stuff. Yeah, I was burning with envy, clearly. Then I saw the message that finally pushed me from peace into something colder. Sharper. It wasn't from Mom. Dad, Janine, or Kyle. It was from Janine's husband. A single text. Since you want to air dirty laundry, let's talk about what really happened with the house your parents gave you money for. And just like that, it all clicked. This wasn't just bruised pride. This was retaliation. They weren't mad that I drew a boundary. They were scared I might keep doing it, that I might actually walk away and not come crawling back. They were already trying to smear me, rewrite the story, turn it from Marcus finally stood up for himself into Marcus is unstable and vindictive. So I did something I'd never done before. I hit record. The next morning, while I waited for my flight, I filmed a video. Just me, speaking calmly, sitting on the little balcony of my resort. I explained everything. Not emotionally, not angrily, just facts. What I'd paid, what I'd been asked to do, the dinner, the bill, the fallout. And then I said the words I never thought I'd say out loud. I'm stepping back from my family, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. I'm done funding guilt trips disguised as love. I'm done being manipulated. If you've ever felt like your only value in a relationship was what you could give, not who you are, this is your reminder that you don't have to keep paying to stay included. Sometimes the cost of being accepted is losing yourself. And I'm not willing to pay that anymore. I didn't post it publicly. I wasn't trying to go viral. But I sent it to every single member of my family. Then I boarded my flight home. When I landed, the silence was deafening. Not a single response. Not for hours. But then, around midnight, a text came in. From an unknown number. I watched your video. I don't blame you. For what it's worth, I think you were right. Aunt Rachel. Aunt Rachel. The only one who never asked for anything. The only one who once slipped me a $50 bill when I graduated, whispered, "Don't tell your mom I gave you this," and hugged me like I mattered. She'd always stayed on the fringe of the drama. Never fully in, never fully out. Just there, quietly observing. Her message meant more than I expected. But it wasn't the last. The next day, I got a message from my cousin Amanda. Then one from my uncle's second wife. Then another, and another. Not a flood. Not a tidal wave. But a steady trickle of people who had quietly felt the same for years and never said a word. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who'd been used. I was just the first one to say no. As for the core four, Mom, Dad, Janine, and Kyle, they fell into radio silence after that. At least publicly. I heard, through whispers, that Kyle was trying to pick up extra shifts. That Janine was furious I'd embarrassed the family. That Dad told everyone I'd had a midlife identity crisis, and Mom still referred to the dinner as the betrayal. But I didn't reach out. I didn't apologize. I just moved on. I hired a therapist, started journaling for real, made some new friends outside of work, took an online course in photography just because it made me happy. And one day, a few months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a card. On the front, a picture of a steak and lobster. Inside, in scratchy handwriting, "Hope this covers my part. Janine." Taped to the card? A $20 bill. I laughed so hard I cried. Not because it was funny, but because it was over. She knew. She understood what that $20 meant. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't forgiveness. It was acknowledgement. She finally saw it. Saw me. And that was enough. I framed the bill. Hung it above my desk. A little reminder. Never again pay to be part of something that costs you your peace. Because family isn't who you're born to. It's who treats you like you matter. And for the first time in my life, I do.